Good morning. We are Team 4. Our project is the Rural Garden Development in a Food Desert. My name is Rebecca Seal. My teammates are Joe Gunn, Andres Bull, and Mackenzie Bryant. So what we'll be talking about today, we're going to summarize the problem that we've been given. We'll talk about our meeting with the Bain team, who has worked on similar projects as this one, and our meeting with Professor Stark. We're going to recap the flow analysis and our recommended solution. We're going to dive into an analysis of our costs, and we're going to break them down further, our investment costs and those involved in operation. We'll talk about our potential revenue, and then we'll be combining those values and looking at our potential profits. And then we'll give you our financial values, such as the net present value and return on investment, and then we'll have any time for questions or comments. So again, the problem that we were facing is South Texas Advancement Resource is developing a garden in a area with high temperatures, not a lot of rain. It's the south of Aguilares, Texas, in Webb County. And the land includes a 1-acre storage pond that collects runoff from 20 acres. And this is going to be included in our problem. For example, we'll have to figure out how to get it from the pond to our land. And then we'll have 4 high tunnels, 24 by 105 feet each. This will give us a little bit more freedom with choosing our crops because it'll provide a little bit of sun protection and wind protection as well. And yeah.
All right, so our meeting with Bain team and Mr. Stark. So with the Bain team, we met the first days of March. They have basically the same piece of land that we do. It's just their project covers the whole property, and we just cover a certain space that was given to us by our client. They shared calculations with us for like evaporation of water, fencing concerns that they had too. One of the main concerns we had was the fence, like between both teams, and what was like expected from us for these projects. Since the Bain team has already been working at this from last semester and this semester, they were really helpful to us with their calculations, insight on what they wanted to do, and we also shared like common crops that we wanted to input into this project. Now, with our meeting with Professor Stark, he knows our client very, very well. He has worked for his capstone course too. He knows what our client expects from A&M students, what he wants us to bring to the table. He did just check our economic analysis a couple of days ago, gave us feedback on it, which would be also represented in our presentation.
I'm Mackenzie Bryant, and I will be giving a brief overview of our flow analysis. So the seeds for broccoli, cucumbers, bell peppers, tomatoes, and spinach will cost $316. The fertilizer will cost $1,733 per year if we use it every 6 weeks. The water needed will cost around $28,000 per year. The tractor and attachments will cost $131,000, and the labor costs are $21,900 per year. For our recommended solution, we will use a drip irrigation system and a pump in the tank, as well as a fixed knot fence. The drip irrigation system will bring water that we have in our 1-acre storage pond to the garden area. This allows the water to be supplied directly to the crop's root system, which will decrease water loss and increase efficiency. The drip emitters will be placed near the root of the crop, allowing for the water to be supplied directly to the areas that need it. The fixed knot fence will be positioned around the traditional garden area as well as around the high tunnels if it's needed there. And then this will keep unwanted animals such as hogs and deer away from the crops, and it is able to sustain the environment.
So for our cost analysis, our tractor is a John Deere 6000 155 module. The attachments are an RT 119 tiller and a reaper, which brings the total cost to $131,200. There's a centrifugal pump. It's a Pedro 3 horsepower pump, which is enough for our project. The drip irrigation system, the way we calculated this is that usually the cost for the irrigation system per acre goes around from 500 to 1200. So we decided to go with a little bit of a higher number with $1,000 per acre. This includes miscellaneous costs and other problems that we might run into, which brings the total to $5,000. Our fixed knot fence, which is $2 per foot, brings it to a total of $4,000. This is including T-post and everything. Protective coverings, we require a total of 8 coverings for our 4 tunnels, which is each covering is $200, which brings us to a total of $1,600. Our seeds cost, and the fertilizer was calculated with numbers given by A&M, and our labor would be paid $12 an hour, which with 10 workers for 6 months, which would bring it to a total of $22,000.
Hey, Joe, you're muted.
Come off of mute there.
Sorry.
Okay.
Hello, I'm Joe. This is investment and operating costs. As you can see, the total investment is a little over $142,000. That includes the tractor and both of its attachments, which are the tiller and the reaper. Then you have the drip irrigation system, which includes the pump, as well as all the drip emitters and the tubing as well. Then you have the fixed knot fence to go around and protect the crops from livestock and hogs and deer. Then is the protective coverings to protect from wind, hail, and sun. And then at the bottom we have the total operating costs, which are just under $25,000. That includes the seeds, fertilizer, and the labor. Next is the revenue. So we calculated our total revenue to be just over $40,000 per year. The breakdown for that is broccoli and spinach, each calculated at $6,800 per acre. Vining cucumbers at $5,000 per acre. Bell peppers at a little over $17,000 per acre. Asparagus and cantaloupes both at $6,000 per acre, and tomatoes at $26,600 per acre. The total is actually from doing, let's see, I think the cucumbers and the cantaloupe were split into half acres each. So instead of 5,000 for the vining cucumbers, we used 2,500 for our total, and then the cantaloupes as 3,000 to get that 40,000 number. Next is the profit analysis. On the left side, you can see our revenue that's carried over from the previous slide. Then our costs are on the right side. We first have our operating costs, which include the seeds, fertilizer, and labor at a little under $25,000. After meeting with Professor Stark and letting him review my economic analysis, I realized that I had a couple of costs missing. One being maintenance and fuel costs for the tractor. That will definitely cost money. And then we also have the energy costs, like how much electricity the centrifugal pump would require. And so, subtracting our costs from our revenue, we realized a profit of just over $16,000 per the year. Finally, we have our financial information. A big key part of this problem is the investment of a tractor. It'll make the costs a lot higher. If we are able to use a tractor from another piece of property or buy a used one potentially, it'll bring the costs way down. Without buying a tractor, the payback period is only 9 months. With the investment of a new tractor, it brings it to around 9 years. The ROI on the tractor and the entire investment is 9%, and that's over a 20-year period. Then we have the net present value, which is just over $38,000 for the 20 years. And then you can see without the investment of a tractor, it would go up substantially to just under $170,000. All right, that brings us to the end of our project. If y'all have any questions, comments, or concerns, we can definitely answer those. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Rainey, would you go first, please?
Yeah, hey guys. That's some kind of tractor you got quoted there. 6 Series, 100 horse, $130,000 tractor. 2 comments. Number one is I don't know that tractor will fit in the high tunnels for when you start to do your tilling and everything. I would suggest maybe a 5 Series John Deere tractor, 50 horse tractor. Those go for about $50,000. So you go from a 65 down to a 50 horse tractor, you cut your tractor costs by more than half, and it'll fit in the high tunnel so that you can get in there and do the work you need when in between crops, when you have to do your tilling and fertilizing and stuff like that. All of the rest of the presentation looked good to me, but I think, y'all were obviously concerned about your tractor costs, and maybe I helped you out there. That's it.
Okay, team 3, you guys want to make some comments, questions, please?
It would have been interesting to see the operating costs broken down a little more. Unless I missed something, I didn't really see that they were broken down that much. I also noticed on one slide, real fertilizer, y'all stated it was 1,700, but on the slide it shows 2,600.
Yeah, the 1,700 I think you got from our report, but the 1,700 is for fertilizing 6 weeks, every 6 weeks for the year, and then the for every 4 weeks was 2,600.
Could you go to the flow analysis slide? Yeah, I think the fonts are just a little bit off equipment. The numbers obviously vary, but the font, it just looks kind of weird and unbalanced.
All right, anybody else? All right. Okay, this was a good presentation, about 12 minutes long. Joe had about 5 minutes, and everybody else had 2 to 4 minutes, but that's okay. Everybody had a part to play. The presentation was pretty well organized, but I'm not sure. I need to double check to see if you actually did what you said you were going to do. Go to the table of contents slide right there. Yeah. When I first saw this slide, I wrote down table of contents. That's a phrase that we use in a paper. What would be, Rebecca, what would be another phrase that you might use for a presentation?
I would probably just say contents. I feel like table insinuates that it might be numbered.
Okay. I would, if you've been paying attention to my lectures, hint, hint, the phrase I use is overview. Okay, so that's usually the phrase you use for a slide like this. This tells the audience, this is what I'm about to cover. An overview is usually the term there. That's pretty aggressive. That's a lot of information, but you know what, y'all, you really didn't cover that, so that's all right. Go to your next slide. Summary. There was a summary of the problem here. All right, team. Let's put back in lecture mode here. What would you critique about this slide? Okay. Let's see. I believe the instruction I gave was to use bullets instead of sentences, and those look like sentences to me. So you know what? They're not long sentences. It's okay, but I think you probably could have used some bullets there, but there's kind of some cutting and pasting going on, so you just need to put a little bit more effort into making these into slides and not just cutting and pasting out of your presentation. Let's see. Let's go to the next slide about the meeting with Professor Stark. Notice how I called him Professor Stark. Andres, what have you called him on this slide?
I call him Mr. Stark.
Actually, according to the slide, he's just Stark. Oh, and on top of that, with a not even capitalized. All right, so you know, just you want to clean that up and make sure that's professional. Always use someone's title, or you could call it Mr. Stark, but don't just Stark. He's not your drinking buddy. Okay, he's a professor. Another thing with this slide is you talked about common concerns and shared calculations. But I'd like to see what those are. I never really caught what those were. You may have mentioned them, but I would have used this slide to list what those common concerns were, instead of just saying there are some common concerns. Let's go to your next slide. Let's see. This is all right. And again, I'm not sure that. I'd have to double check, but I don't know that these numbers are the same numbers that made it onto the cost slides. You know, I'd have to go back and look. So that's fine. Go to the next slide. Wait a minute. So back up. You said labor is 21,900. I think I remember labor being a different number. What's the different number?
Yeah, I put 22. Just
yeah, okay.
Different rounding.
Well, it's rounding error, but just be consistent in your slides. So the flow analysis should probably say 22. Fixed knot fence, and there's even a picture of the fence. I would just say, and you guys are not going to like me saying this, all right? I'm really picking on you here. You guys are really proud of this fixed knot fence. By golly, you went and did some research. You picked out what kind of wire. It's a fixed knot. There's a lot I don't know about your solution, but I do know the type of wire you're using is a fixed knot fence. So, okay, got it. We got a fence. I would rather see more detail about the crops and how much of each one you're going to plant and things like that. So I apologize. I'm making fun a little bit, but I know a lot about the fence. Let's see here. Let's go to your investment. Yeah, your economic analysis. Hit the major components here. Go back to this next slide. Go back one. Yeah, this kind of gives me an overview of your investment costs, and you catalog those later on. So here I'm seeing this up front. Now go to your next slide. Okay, that's good. Go to your next slide. All right, I'm not enjoying this slide quite as much because you need to use more columns. Okay, you've got the numbers right next to the words, and so that's a little hard to read. Also, the revenues, you could have added a total at the bottom so I can see what the total revenue is. You could have added a total cost, so I can see a little bit of how you came up with $16,243, and use commas. Yeah, I agree with Mr. Rainey's comment about the tractor. My first question is, does the client have a tractor? I guess I'm assuming not. You guys have asked him that. Does he not have a tractor anywhere on this 100 acres that could be used?
We haven't.
Unmuted. Okay, yeah, we do have mini tractors, so we could allocate a cost to however many days of tractor use, and then throw it back to the project. You wouldn't have to buy a tractor at all.
Thanks, Bill. So this is a client interaction thing. That'd be the first thing before you go haul off and buy some tractor, is ask him, do you have a tractor that we could use? And then you would include a fraction of that tractor use in your costs. But it probably would not be part of your investment costs. So anyway, you guys have you've got a lot of good components to your presentation here and to your solution. It just needs to you need to fine tune some of those, like I mentioned, and I think you guys will have a good project. All right, go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, I think it was well organized, well presented by the team members. I like to see your analysis, the cost. I think it's an improvement from your last draft, so I like to see that you have spent some time doing that. I really like your slide on interactions with the engineering team, the advisors, and I assume that you had done that with the client. And it shows that the communication with the client should be strengthened, because the tractor, after I saw your numbers, I was very concerned about the tractor being so expensive and really making your solution not as feasible. So you had to continue the interaction with your client, because that would have changed your analysis, right, and recommended profits and so forth. So make sure you keep in contact. Mr. Ryan is a very good client. He comes to all the presentations. He's always interacting with the instructors, and he will do the same thing with you. So I had a point on that, because I was very concerned about the tractor being so expensive and really sliding your thing. So you address that in your summary slide, which is good. So you are aware of that, and you are aware of that tractor being an issue and so forth. So I like your table of contents. I did not pay attention to the title, as Professor Maggie is correct, but I like that you were thinking of providing all that information in your presentation. So I like that. Otherwise, good flow. Just go back to your tractor issue and see if you can propose a better solution for your class. Good job.
Okay. Any other comments, Mr. Rainey? Anything else from you?
No, I don't have anything else.
All right. Well, we appreciate you working with these teams, and it's particularly year after year doing that. And these are great projects, and they give our ag system students a real challenge to try to figure out. And this is a college class, so as you encounter problems, you get to correct them, and then see how it goes from there. So thanks for working with us on that. The teams have some just a little bit of work to do, but they've made a lot of progress. So I'm looking forward to seeing the final solution.